What was the first song that kind of was finished that ended up on the album?
Well, actually, the sound was a song I finished pretty early, and it had actually been a song I had written before I had technically like started writing the record, but I kept coming back to it, and it felt like it was it felt different.
Right.
And it started out as just like an acoustic guitar song, and then working with the band and with the producer, it became this bigger thing.
You mentioned the band, so part of this experimentation, kind of expanding what you were doing, how important was playing with the band in all of it?
It couldn't have been done without the band. Yeah. Just because these songs, I'm not like, I don't necessarily write with this grand scheme of what the thing is going to be in my head. So bringing the band into the studio and working with them and working with Nate, my producer, to put it in a different set of clothes, right? That was really important. Like I wouldn't have been able to make this record without it.
And then, part of going in a new direction and having a bit of a new sound, part of it is also that people have a certain expectations of you and certain opinions about what you do. Mm-hmm. So was that in the back of your mind while you...
I tried to keep that out of my head. I think a couple years ago that would have been more in the forefront of my mind.
Okay.
But no, this time it was really, first and foremost, I wanted to make something that I was going to like, and that was the biggest priority. I didn't want to intentionally alienate anyone, right. But I wanted to make something that I could feel like I was proud of and that was true to my own aesthetic sensibilities and the things that I like to listen to.
Sorry. Did you surprise yourself on the album?
I don't know.
It's a good question. In the sense maybe that there's something on it that you didn't expect to be on there before?
I didn't... The whole thing was such a process of discovery that I really didn't know what it was going to be until it was done. Right. So I had I had the ability to continuously craft and shape and mold this thing along. We spent like a year making this record, which is the longest I've ever spent making anything. We have this space in Seattle called the Bait Shop that's like this loft space where me and Nate made most of the record, and we just go in every day and tweak things, and he would work on stuff when I was gone, and I'd come in and be like, I like this, I don't like this, and we just nitpick over things. So it was just this constant evolving process, and there's definitely songs on there that I didn't expect them to sound how they ended up sounding. So maybe in that sense, I was a little surprised, but I think because I didn't have any ultimate goal for the way it was going to end up, it was just this ongoing evolution.
And thematically then, because you mentioned your acoustic work borders more on the confessional side.
Yeah.
So thematically, were there certain things that you want to talk about, or was it still introspective, or did you?
Well, originally it was going to be this like very specific concept album on social media and like identity with entertainment. And then Father John Misty came out and just made that exact record, which I knew he was going to do. But there were, I think so much of this record was written over this last year, and for the first time feeling at 28, feeling more aware of my own mortality, feeling more aware of the state of the world, the anxiety, this like inescapable awareness of everything. And that started to feel toxic and overwhelming to me.
Sure.
Being in the States and watching the election cycle happen and seeing real-time effects of climate change and all these things, and just not knowing what to do with those feelings. And so I tried to channel a lot of that into the record without it being literal or specific. But that's where that white noise concept comes from. It's just like everything all the time, just all this, always data, always noise, always distractions, and feeling like I was losing a sense of my identity as a human being, but also just with the finiteness of things, like that we're infinitesimally small in the scope of everything in the universe,
And I wrote a quote down, and I saw on your website you had a couple of these quotes about social media. And there's one, the ability to live in harmony with your true self is clearly visible and will show up in your selfies. So where did that come from?
So my brother-in-law wrote a series of vignettes that were, well, I originally asked him to just write a bio for the record, and then we met up, and he's like, I don't really think this bio thing he's talking about, he's like, what I'd really like to do is write these kind of mood pieces, which that comes from. So he wrote a handful of vignettes inspired by different elements of the record. And so we included it in the artwork, and there's pieces of it there in the website, and a little bit, it's like a little bit that one specifically is like obviously tongue-in-cheek, and like but I love that I like including that kind of literary element to the whole experience, and it's still abstract, it's not like people can make of it what they want.
Right. And then finally about identity, then, because as you say, it can be quite tough these days with so much going on. So, and as somebody in the public eye, in a way, how do you deal with kind of what we talked about earlier, people's expectations, and then your own expectations of yourself, and kind of how you see?
Well, my own expectations of myself are pretty different from other people's. I mean, my own expectations of myself are constantly unattainable.
In what sense?
Just like my expectations of myself creatively. I move past what I've made very quickly, and I'm on to the next thing. And so much of my identity is built up around my creative identity, but it's not so much about what other people think of it. It's more my own sense of self-criticism.
Right.
And I'm trying to find a healthy balance with that, because there is more to life than writing songs. But go ahead.
Well, I was thinking, so is kind of you as a songwriter, is it then always the chase for the perfect song in a way?
Yeah, it's always, I feel like it's always the chase for something better, something more true, something more unique, something more interesting, which is actually I was having a conversation with another songwriter before I started making this record. I had a moment at a show where I was kind of had a little bit of an anxiety attack at this show, and talked to this other songwriter afterwards, and he mentioned a quote from Martha Graham, who's a famous choreographer for modern dance, and she said that no artist is ever pleased. There's only the queer divine dissatisfaction that keeps us, moving forward. And I think to be reassured that that's okay, that there is no nirvana, there is no thing we achieve. It's just a continuous pushing forward. That is really difficult at times, but to know that that's a part of the driving force that drives creativity and drives progress, and that I get to be a part of that I feel fortunate.
I think that's a good ending.
Good.
All right.
Cool.
Noah, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.